What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bluegrass State of Mind, the show where three college roommates talk life, sports, and all the ridiculous things that happen in an apartment we like to refer to as Room 302. We're bringing you stories, hot takes, and the kind of late-night debates that probably should have stayed in the group chat.
So grab your headphones, sit back, and get ready for a wild ride through our past college life, sports, and everything in between. Let's get into it. This is Bluegrass State of Mind.
Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. March Madness is here. It has officially started. We're going to kick things off tonight with kind of discussing the playing games. By the time this episode is released, there had already been the actual tournament, the Thursday's games. We're not quite there yet because we're recording this on Wednesday night, but we're just going to talk a little bit about these first four playing games, kind of give you our thoughts, and we'll just go from there. So, on Tuesday night, we had our first two playing games. You had St. Francis's versus Alabama State, with Alabama State winning of a score of 70-68. Then you had that, following that game, you had North Carolina playing San Diego State with a score of 95-68. Then you had Mount St. Mary's, who played tonight, Wednesday night, beating American University 83-72. And we're not quite finished yet. The game is still going on with Texas, but they're currently leading Xavier at halftime 47-39. Kolton, let's talk a little bit about the first two playing games on Tuesday night. Was there any thoughts? Did you get to watch a lot of it? What were some of the things that you had seen?
Yeah, so I watched both of them, and the first game, it's between two 16 seeds, but how exciting was it right off the bat? Very first game of even it's a playing game.
Yep, it's here.
Last second heave, right? An ideal March Madness way to set the tone. So I love seeing it. That's awesome. That's what you love about March Madness. You just never know, and the craziness that happens. But then obviously the big, I wouldn't say it's a shocker because I think a lot of us was thinking UNC was gonna win. But obviously that's going to be the topic of conversation. They came out and played lights out. They did they could do no wrong. They played really well. They have played good in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like you all. I don't think they deserve to be in the tournament. I don't think whether they win multiple games that justifies them being in the tournament. I think we can all agree on that. But This team is playing their best basketball right now, and they have in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So when they, like I said, outside of Duke, they were beating every other team they played by 20. Right? It wasn't just like they were barely winning games; they were winning by a lot, and so. They play an Ole Miss team that's kind of been on the downward projection, the last half of the SEC when they started playing the tougher part of their schedule. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see UNC win that game either. But, y'all can give y'all's thoughts on what y'all said. And then, obviously, Texas right now has looked good. They look a lot more, like a lot more prepared, like me and Dillon talked about earlier. And they may not win this game, but they definitely were ready for the moment.
Yeah.
Sure.
Before I send it over to Mason, I do want to talk a little bit about North Carolina because, I was really heavy on how they just were not good and they did not deserve to be in this tournament. And I don't retract my statements at all. And for the people who heard me last time, they absolutely still did not deserve to be in this tournament based on the format that was given and the credentials that they needed to meet to be in the tournament. Now, with that being said, I totally agree with you, Kolton, in the fact that they're a good team. They played almost a perfect game, other than the first 10 minutes where they had 7 turnovers. Other than that, they played just a perfect game. They shot the ball very well from 3. They were 14 from 24 at 58% from the 3. They was 21 for 24 on free throws at 87%. I was looking at some of the stuff that they had struggled with all season. The things that they had struggled with was shooting. They had struggled with their bigs being a good presence, and they struggled with chemistry. If you watched that North Carolina team last night, you wouldn't have said that. That doesn't change the fact, though, that they shouldn't have been there. So that was one of the things that I had about North Carolina. Mason, what was some of your thoughts on either game?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a whole lot of either one. Obviously, I saw the ending to that first game. What a great way to start off March Madness. Pretty cool. Just kind of sets the tone for everything else. I agree with some of the stuff that Kolton said regarding North Carolina. They they have been playing their best basketball here down the stretch of the season. They've looked better. Their only loss has been to Duke. My only thing with them is they played in the ACC. We know the ACC was not very talented, not very good this year. So I just want to see how they match up against an SEC team. We know the SEC was loaded this year. I'm just interested to see how they match up against that. Like Kolton said, they've been playing their best basketball, but I just don't think they've been playing the type of teams that Ole Miss has played all season and been tested how Ole Miss has. So they have some momentum, right? They've won a game in the tournament. Ole Miss has been sitting for, over a week now, right at a week. By the time they play on Friday, anything can happen. I hope Ole Miss doesn't come out rusty. We're always kind of pulling for the SEC, but I want to see how they match up against that kind of SEC talent. They haven't really seen that in I don't know how long since ACC tournament started, except against Duke and, Clemson, a couple of teams they have in there.
You all right there, Mason?
Has something in my throat.
We apologize to the listeners. Malfunction. Amazing. I was thinking the same thing, though. Like, I was thinking about North Carolina. Of course, we're talking about a team that was a preseason top 10, right?
Yes.
I mean, so,
absolutely.
and we were talking about Kansas a minute ago before we started. Like, they're a 7 seed, but they were the preseason number 1. So, like,
it's also important. They have the guards. Like, they have the bigs, too. Like, they have the guard play and the bigs to make a deep run. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just, I know it's unexpected, but when you start looking at the paper, they have that guard you're talking about, right? Like RJ Davis, that
Trimble too, came off the bench.
March,
he hit some
right?
big threes last night.
And they had a big recruit that was, projected to maybe go to Kentucky. Jackson, they thought he was going to come to Kentucky for a long time. So they've got guys. We'll see how they do handle it. It will be interesting because I think you'll either see two things. You'll either see Ole Miss maybe was not as good as what they thought they were. Because I think they match up well. Like when you look, Ole Miss doesn't have a dominant big. It's just the one thing North Carolina lacks. And everywhere else they match up pretty much even with Ole Miss. So
I think, like you said, like Ole Miss, I feel like they hit their peak. About a month ago, they were looking really, really good. They don't really look like the same team to me now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just not hitting shots. They just don't really look like the same team, especially that team that we saw when we went to Ole Miss. So
I like Chris Beard as a coach, though.
Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah,
Well, the game before, like you said, was a really fun game. It's what March is all about, and I watched a lot of it. And St. Francis, they outplayed Alabama State the entire game, other than those last 4 minutes. But other than the last second shot, there's still a little bit of time left, like a second and a half maybe. But I don't know if y'all was watching. Kolton, you said you watched pretty much the whole game. Mason, you may not have seen this, but you may have seen the highlight. But the guard for Alabama State with like maybe a minute and a half where he drives to the right and just throws up a floater that touches the moon. And it was behind the backboard, and I was like, what in the world is this? You love to see it. Don't really want to dive into it, but we were sending text messages back and forth like, this is why we need to have more playing games with them. Mason was saying stuff about that'd be great in the NIT tournament, not here.
Yeah, you want to watch basketball, go watch the NIT.
Yeah. But tonight's game, you like I said, the Texas and Ole Miss game is not complete, but Texas does look comfortable. Xavier is currently right now on a little run here to make it a little bit closer. I did not get to watch any of the game before that, Mount St. Mary's and American. I was at church, but when I got home, I did see some highlights, and I had seen where the best player for American had went down 3 different times. He got his hurt knee, then he came out, he went to the locker room, come back out. Then he got hurt again. Then he went to the locker room again and then come back, and then he was done. Hate to see that, especially because he was he the player of the year, or was they just referencing saying like he was by far the best player on that team because he averaged like 17 points. I don't know if he was player of the year in that league, but you hate to see that.
He might have been. They were the number 1 team in that conference for the regular season, so he could very well. He was the best team on that. He was the best player on that team. I didn't know a lot about either one. I did think I chose American to win.
I did too.
But I think it's funny because my youngest nephew, he was filling out his bracket, and my brother-in-law said he had done pretty good, except for he he chose American over Duke because he was like, there's no way I can choose Duke over America. You know, he was thinking
That's
he was like,
great.
I was like,
I'll
man,
be honest with you.
that's the most
That's
American
why
thing.
that's
They're
why I
raising
picked
him
them.
right.
I picked them because it said
Don't ever pick
American.
Duke.
So
Well, they've been first 4 games are pretty much going to be complete. They're not completely done, but by the end of the night, we'll know
He's
who's
so good.
the first 4. Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
I know. But let's get into the game that really matters: the Kentucky Wildcats. They are going into Friday night's game playing against a Troy team. Currently, Kentucky is 22-11, and Troy is 23-10. I'm going to kind of give a breakdown, and I'm going to let you all feed off of it. So, fellas, this game is the type of game that scares me, and it shouldn't. But the reason why, and it really, honestly, it as much as I want to say that it has a lot to do with our previous years of how we have not played very well in this tournament, but it's more so just based on the performance of this year, because these are the kind of teams that Kentucky has came out all year long and played down to the level of. We play very well against our good teams, but then whenever we get to another team, we don't play well. And I'm gonna just throw some stuff out here, and then I'll give it to you all. And just I'm not trying to jinx it, but we are a 3 seed. The last time we was a 3 seed was last year, and we lost. In the all-time, in 64 games, the 3 seeds are 133 and 23 at 85% winning record. And like I said, last year, UK was the 3 seed. And there's only been 2 14 seeds to upset a 3 seed since 2016. So, and you also have a young coach, Mark Pope, who is 0-2 in the NCAA tournament. And then you have Troy's coach, Scott Cross, who is leading his team to the NCAA tournament. This is his second time doing so. So, Mason, what are your initial thoughts on this game for Friday night?
Yeah, a little nervous as well. I mean, who can't be after the last few years? And it's also March. You know, like you said, anything can happen. I just hope that we kind of come out and set the tone early. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. You know, you give teams like this hope in March, pressure starts building on the team that's supposed to win.
100%.
And we just got to come out and take care of business right away. I'm hoping that this team, being full of upperclassmen, guys who have been here before, Lamont Butler making a Final Four run, I'm hoping that they understand and are in the right mental state to just come out and take care of things. With that being said, I didn't know. Did y'all know that Troy, so I saw where they finished 4th in their conference. Did you know it was a 4-way tie for first? They finished in a 4-way tie for first. Yeah,
I did
during the
not.
regular season, which is kind of crazy. I mean, like, how do you have a 4-way tie for first?
yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like, oh, you know, maybe they're playing their best basketball right now, but it seems like, you know, they were top of that conference all year. They, I mean, we've heard all the things, you know, they're pretty good defensively. Try to get physical. They're not a very good shooting team. With that being said, they'll probably come out and make 10 against us. Seems like teams always do that.
Mm-hmm.
They are 10th in college basketball in steals per game. So I was looking at some film that I'd seen people post on X and Twitter and things. They run some junk defenses, zone defenses that like to trap out of the zone, like to trap bigs out of the zone down in the post. So I know we rely on Amari Williams a lot. So if we're not knocking down threes, it could get scary.
I think this is a game that Amari Williams has to show out, because this Troy team is not very big. They only have they have 2 6'8" guys, and neither one of them's averaging 9.8 points. The other one's averaging 7.9, and their highest rebounder is at 6.8 rebounds. Which, so I think that, like you said, Amari Williams has to have a bit. I mean, he should have a field day. As far as rebounds go, and just dominating his presence.
That's my concern is, well, he's such a good passer, though. It's not that big of a concern. But they're going to try to take him out of the game, I feel like, and make us hit shots. That's kind of what their defense does. I mean, they've held opponents to, I was looking, they have a top 25 scoring defense, and they've held their opponents to 32% from 3 all year. That's what their opponents are averaging. So I feel like they're going to try to force Amari Williams to pass out of that double team and make us beat them from beyond the arc. I think as long as we can take care of the ball, we'll be fine. But it'll be interesting to see how we go against some of those different defenses they're going to throw at us, because we haven't really seen that this year.
Yeah. Kolton, what you got?
I actually think they're going to do opposite. I think they're going to let Amari Williams get his and not let it get into a shootout. I think that's their best chance, because if we're only doing twos, then maybe we're not scoring 80 or 90 points on them. I think that's the only way that, like, they have a chance, is if they find a way to keep us under 70 points. They do not score very much. I will say, though, one thing that worries me, even though they're not big, they're like 4th or 11th, I can't remember, offensive rebounding in the country. So their whole team offensive rebounds. Like, I was watching some highlights, like they all go at it. So extra shots, that helps if you're not a very good 3-point shooting team. I will say too, that one of their best shooters, and we saw this with kind of the Big Z, the Arkansas game, their best shooter on the team is their big man. Is their big man. He's a sophomore, I think, but he's 6'8".
Thomas Dowd.
Down. Yeah. He's their best shooter. So, like, if Amari Williams is on him, right, and they pull him away from the basket, like, Amari can't get him, he can't give him room. Like,
that's
did Big
something
Z.
that I've noticed that Amari Williams does way too often.
Right.
He backs up and he's like, go ahead and shoot it. And that could be something scary.
So he's got to be up on him.
Their best, so just for the listeners out there, so like, because you'll be listening to this Friday morning, hopefully before the UK game. So you got their best player is their guard. It's a senior guard, Tayton Conneray. He's averaging 14.3 points. Then they go, Miles Rigsby is a forward. He's averaging 12 points. The Dowd guy that Kolton was referring to is 6'8", averaging 9.8 points, 6.8 rebounds. And then their next forward that I talked about is Jackson Fields, averaging 7.9 points, 4.7 rebounds. And then they have another Rigsby, I guess they're brothers, who averages 6.9 points. So they're not a team that's going to fill you up on offense, it seems like. But their defense is what keeps them in it seems like. And, that's, Kolton, you've said all year long about every episode that we talk about Kentucky. Again, we shoot right at that 50%. If we just shoot 42% and do our usual, we should win by double digits. We should. That's not to say that it's not going to be a game, because we've struggled with these games the past. Yeah, it's March too, and we've struggled with these games the past couple of years. And is that not a bummer though? I just remember that like 4 years ago when it wasn't a struggle. Like, I never thought about me even talking about this game being a concern. I didn't. I really didn't. Do y'all have those same thoughts?
Yeah, it makes me sad. Thinking back to the last 2 years, after Kentucky loses, it's like all that magic's gone for me. The excitement's gone. It's like, I mean, I'm still going to watch basketball, obviously, because I love basketball, but you're not cheering for the Cats. You don't have that little bit of hope deep inside of you, like they might win another national championship this year. And that excitement's just gone for me. So it really does stink. And it's not a good feeling. I know other programs have had this happen before, but it's just like, please, let's just get past this point where we've lost these last couple of years. Let's move past this so we don't have to think about this anymore. I feel like that's all anybody, Kentucky fans are thinking about, talking about, which is not how it should be, right? We should be focusing on this team. The past is in the past. Let's just urge this team forward and cheer them on. But I feel like all I hear anybody talking about or posting on X is, are we going to make it past Troy? And
yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I said it a couple episodes ago or last episode. I feel like I trust this team more to take care of this type of game than I have the last couple of years. And I think this team is more talented than what we've had going into the tournament, because I don't. I just think that they score a lot, and I think the maturity level has come out. Like the games that we've been double-digit favorites, besides the Arkansas game, we've come out and like took care of business. Like, we don't, I think maybe Colgate was the only really like somewhat
mid-major. What's the spread right now?
It was only, I don't know. It went back. I think it went up. I didn't check it today. It was 11.5. It went from 10.5 to 11.5. And
I figured it 10.
I figured it would get to close to 13.
That was my guess.
But I still like us to cover. I mean, I just think if we get anywhere above 75 points, we're covering that. Like, I just don't think they're going to be able to score on the inside, obviously, a whole lot with Amari Williams and Carr in there. Mm-hmm. But I will say where we struggle at is we don't really have that like 6'8" guy. Right? Like we don't, like we have a 6'11" and 7-footer, and then Oway goes that to like 6'5", but they're kind of in that middle position where it's kind of mismatch issues for them and us a little bit.
It's 11.5 right now.
Yeah, I don't really like that it's that low. I really feel like it should be higher. I mean, so maybe they know something we don't, but truthfully told, I really think that they will be. I just think with everything that's happened the last couple of years, I think Pope will have them focused.
Okay,
I think
so
those seniority. I think they'll take care of business. I really do.
I got a question for you, Kolton, and then Mason, you can answer it too if you want. If he says if you're going to say something different, in a world where we do get upset again, which is possible, but why would we get upset? Like, what would be the reasoning for that?
Right,
If that
in the
were to
game?
come, yes.
So my guess would be that we settle. The only way that we get beat is if we settle for 3 and Oway doesn't score over 12 points, right? So like my thing is if we shoot less than like 35% from 3 and Oway doesn't score 12 points, because that's usually our backup plan, right? I think Williams will get his. I don't think there's going to be any stopping him, but we've seen the games where Williams has dominated and we haven't won, right? So I don't think you can rely on him. I think you have to have in the games where we're not hitting the 3, Oway has to be our go-to, and he's got to take over this type of game if we're not hitting. If we don't shoot, I mean, you said that earlier, if we shoot 42%, but I mean, we have not won many games that we've shot less than, 46% this year. So I don't want to shoot 42% and hope that we still handle this game. I think we still win it, but I don't even want to flirt with that number. So if we get anywhere around that number, I think that's how we lose. I mean, I still think you got to score, because if they keep us under 70, we might lose. I think we got to get over 70.
Do you kind of have the same take, or is there a little bit of a different?
No, I agree with that. I think one of the key things is going to be taking care of the basketball, because like I said, they're 10th in the nation in steals per game, and I know they haven't played the talent, like the SEC at Kentucky. But at the same time, how many times have we seen this year? We have one person right now who could really handle pressure and handle the ball. So, like I said, they play some different junk defenses where they're going to trap out of it. And if we get guys that are just getting in a hurry, trying to force passes, making quick decisions, we got to take care of the basketball is probably one of my biggest things. Mm-hmm. And kind of speaking back to like the Troy and being worried about this game, one thing that makes me feel a little bit better about this game is typically in March, these teams that upset teams are really good offensively, right? They can get hot. They have scorers who can,
they have a one random guy.
Right. And it makes me feel a little bit better that Troy, they're more of a defensive team, and that's kind of what got them here. I'm hoping our athleticism and our size kind of takes that away for them. And we can just put this away early is my biggest hope. But I mean, you look at like UC San Diego, they're one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country. Last year with Oakland, they had the Jack Golke guy who was leading the nation in 3-pointers. So that makes me feel a little bit better with them being, a strong defensive team, and hoping our athleticism can kind of just overpower that.
I think that Troy's played 2 top 25 teams. They played Arkansas and they played
Weren't
Houston.
They up on Arkansas at halftime?
I don't know if they were up or not. I think they they kept that game pretty close.
They played Arkansas, Oregon, and Houston. They got
beat by 16 to Arkansas and 20 to Houston, which aren't really bad because you assume both those games probably extended at the very end. So meaning they were probably a lot closer than what they were. But I don't think in either of those games they scored above 50 points.
Yeah, they also played Oregon and lost by 20. But all 3 of those games was in November. Yeah, all 3 of them was in November, obviously, early in the season.
What did each of I know Arkansas only scored, I think Arkansas scored 65.
65-49
at halftime.
Oregon was 62-42, and then Houston was 82-61. So they lost by 20 points to all 3 Power 5 conference teams that they'd played. But for me, it has nothing to do with the reason why they'd be upset. I agree with both of y'all. I think those were good takes on that. But for me, I think I just want which I don't know that they can completely shut this out and do this, but I want this team to come into this game not cocky, but confident. Because, like you all said, everybody in that arena, it don't matter who you're a fan of, because all those games are played there that day. It don't matter who you're a fan of. The whole crowd is going to be against you because they know the history. They know what's happened the past 3 years. So everybody's going to be against you, no matter even if there's a sea of blue. So be confident in who you are. Be confident in the schedule that you've played, and just go out and take care of business. Like, I know that basketball, it's a game of runs. This Troy team is going to make a run. They're going to make like a 7-0 run. I hope that's about all but they might make a 10-0 run. But it's okay. I mean, it happens all throughout the game. So don't immediately get flustered. Don't think, oh, here we go again. And that's where I agree with you, Mason, that and Kolton both. I like that we have experience. I like that we have a Lamont Butler who hopefully is that leader, that voice. Like, boys, it's over. We're good. We're fine. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. I want to see this team, when they hit adversity in the middle of the game or early in the game, because it might be early, I want us to finish the game. Within 5 minutes, this game, I want it to be at 12 to 15 points. And then at the 2-minute mark, I want it to be to 15 to 20 to know that it's over. Now, if it's at 10 points with 2 minutes left, and then that 6 points with a minute left, then that's whenever things start getting kind of blurry. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Anything else on that before we move on?
I was just looking here at the Arkansas game. So Troy was leading them at halftime. They were up 1 at halftime. And they forced Arkansas to 14 turnovers, which I feel like is a lot against, a high-level D1 team.
Yeah.
So I'd say I remember watching this game. I don't remember specifics, but I'd say a lot of that came in the first half, because Arkansas outscored them a lot in the second half. But Troy's not going to put up 70, 80 points. That's not what they do, right? So if we can just take care of the basketball, we should be able to score. That's kind of my biggest takeaway. Just please take care of the basketball.
That's what I'm saying. We can't settle for the three if we're not hitting. If we're not hitting, we cannot just settle shooting, because that's what they, that's their way of hitting. If we're just shooting and we go 4 for 22 or something like that from three, that's their chance. So if you see early on, you've got to pound inside Williams, always got to take over, then try to hit a few shots when you can, but don't settle and don't give them those chances.
Yeah. All right, Kolton, kind of lead us into this next little segment that we're going to talk about with more March Madness stuff. Kind of tell the viewers what we're about to do.
Oh, yeah, so just looking at the bracket, everyone knows, there's a lot of always upsets. People always know about the 5-12. It seems like there's always one 5-12 upset. The 4-13 is always a big upset. Here in the last 4 or 5 years, we finally have seen a couple 16s take down ones, right? So it's the best part about this tournament is you never know. There's Cinderella stories. And so we just got to thinking about looking at the entire bracket, and each of us want to come up with essentially three teams that we think are capable, or three teams we each think are going to pull the upset that we think, or just 3 bold takes in general, something that we think a team is going to make this type of run, and so on and so on. So that's kind of where we're leading at. We've each looked at the bracket, developed which teams that we want to do, and who we really think is going to make those upsets or possible runs. Dillon, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. So for me, the three that I've selected here, I didn't do as bold predictions, like moving past the first round, or excuse me, the second round. But I did have the 3 teams I've selected here are teams that are bold in a sense that they're going to pull up an upset in the first round. And my first one is my favorite one. I've got number 13 Akron over number 4 Arizona. I love this. Since the new calendar year, Akron is 21-1. They currently hold the biggest winning streak in D1 college basketball right now at 14 games in a row. They won their MAC conference. Akron, they're a very, very fast-paced, powered offense. just watching some highlights and stuff over them. They're also ranked number 8 in D1 in points per game at 84.6, and they've scored 90 points or 90 or more points 11 times this season. They have 7 players who have hit at least 33 pointers. So this, I mean, they're that team that like you don't want to see in the first round, like we were referencing to. Like they are a very high-powered offense, and I'll just tell you, they have some dudes. Let me tell you a little bit about them. All right, they have 2 guards. They have Nate Johnson, who is averaging 14 points per game. He was named both the MAC Player of the Year and the Defensive Player of the Year. So be watching for that guy, Nate Johnson. Then also they have Tavari Johnson, who is 13 points per game. They have a senior forward. His name is James Okanokwu. I guess that's how you say it. He played 2 seasons at North Carolina, and then he transferred to West Virginia, and now he's at Akron. That's the only thing that hurts this team is they're not very big. But what helps them, though, is their offense. So they kind of play like the newer brand of basketball, the newer style. They go 4 kind of stretched guards, and then they have 1 big at 6'8". And then right now, the spread is at 14.5. And if I was a betting man, I would hammer down on that and take Akron at the under. 14.5 is a big stretch, I think, for that game. So that's my biggest and my most favorite one that I have. The next one I'm going with High Point, another 13 seed over 14 Purdue. Mason, are you doing that one?
Yep.
Okay, I'll let you talk about that one then, since you're doing that one too, and let you go a little bit more depth, and then I'll add on to that if you leave out some stuff that I have wrote down. And then my last one is number 12 Liberty over number 5 Oregon. I think one of the reasons why I've not watched a lot of Oregon, but some of the games that I have, and just looking at their schedule, they're very wishy-washy. You really never know what you're going to get. They have beat some really good teams, but then they'll also turn around and lose to a really bad team. And the thing about Oregon is they don't really excel in a lot of areas. They're kind of the middle pack in about everything. But facing against the team Liberty is another fast-paced offensive team. They like to slow it down. Really, they hold their opponents to only 62 points per game. But they also shoot at a very, very high efficiency. They shoot 38.5% from the 3-point range, and they are a top 15 team in the country based on that, and they're even better from the 2-point line. Again, though, and this is something very similar that you find with these kind of teams. If they're not Power 5, the only thing that they really struggle with is size. They also have a 6'8" guy who's the tallest person on that team. Right now, the spread's at 6.5. So I think a lot of people, this is a game that everybody kind of is marked that could be an upset. But, I think that because I selected Liberty and Akron, the reasons for that is because of their offensive efficiency, and they have the capability of just making a lot of shots. And ultimately, in March, that's what happens. Whenever a team upsets, it's because a team gets it's what happened to us last year. Oakland had some guys who got hot, and they was like top in the nation in shooting percentage from the 3 and 3-pointers up. And then, that's just what happened to us. So those are my teams for the upset. So if you haven't finished out your bracket, which the games had already started, but for some reason, if your family got behind, make sure you select those for me. Mason, go ahead.
So we had 2 of the same. I like High Point and I like Liberty a lot. You already talked about Liberty, so I'm just going to jump over to High Point real quick and talk about them. High Point, kind of another high offensive efficiency team. They shoot it really well from behind the arc. They have, I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they have like 4 or 5 guys that shoot over 35% from 3. They average over 8 threes made a game. And Purdue, I've watched them a lot this year. On Sundays, typically, Big Ten's always on Sundays, so it's really only basketball. So I've watched several games of Purdue. We've talked about them all already. I think they got 2 guys. You got the Braden Smith, and you got Rothman Ken, or whatever his name is. And I just think High Point, they can get hot. Watch out. It's March. We've seen this from teams before. Come out, hit a couple threes, get going. I think they're also on a 14-game winning streak right now. I could be wrong. Is that right, Dillon? Did you have that?
I didn't have that down. It may be true, though.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere earlier, and I wrote it down. let me just look at their schedule. I'm pretty sure it's 14, and maybe 1 or 2 more.
While you're looking that up, I also want to add this.
Yeah.
Another reason why that I selected that game, and probably you too, is because they're just not playing their best basketball right now. They've lost 6 of their last 9 games headed into the tournament. Not what you really want to be looking for going into a tournament, especially playing against a team like High Point.
Yeah, and it's a 14-game winning streak. Just looking back, I mean, they've lost five games this year. I mean, that's impressive. I know their conference and things, but they beat like UAB. They beat North Texas, who was solid this year. I watched a couple games of North Texas. So I think High Point, and I think if they win that matchup, I could see them actually winning the next round as well. We'll see what happens. That McNeese Clemson game could be fun too. That's an interesting one everybody's talking about right now. Dillon, you already talked about Liberty. That was another one of mine. I really like Liberty. Oregon's inconsistent. I've watched them this year. Liberty scores a lot of points. I think they've scored over 70 points in every single game they've played this year. I think, or maybe that's the magic number for them. I was reading some stats earlier. But my last team that I really like is Utah State. And I'm taking Utah State to beat UCLA, and then I'm also taking Utah State to beat Tennessee. I think Utah State matches up. They're kind of exact opposites. Okay, so Utah State, they average 9 threes a game. They play at a really fast pace. They average almost 81 points a game. And we've all talked about it. Tennessee struggles to score sometimes. I know their defense is good, but Utah State, they're not going to change their strategy. They're going to be getting threes up. They're going to be trying to score points. And if they get hot, I could see them winning that first round game and then getting by Tennessee as well. We've kind of seen Tennessee struggle with teams like this in the past. So that's kind of my big one. And to upset one of the top seeds, one of those top 2 or 3 seeds, I really like Utah State.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that one too as well, because I did have Utah State beating UCLA as well. I didn't have them beating Tennessee, but Tennessee, when they get to the tournament, sometimes they look like a different team. But I will say this. I thought they looked really good in the SEC tournament. They didn't struggle to score in the SEC tournament at all, in my opinion. I thought that was their best basketball. So if we see that Tennessee, even though they didn't win it, if we see that Tennessee team show up for this March Madness run here, I think they get to the Final Four, not with ease, but until they see us, hopefully we make it. I think that they have a good chance of making a good Final Four run. But like I said, it's March, and you never know about the Tennessee. They usually have a tendency to have a game where they just don't score the ball, like you said.
I'm looking at individual stats now for like all season stats. There's one guy on Utah State that has shot 133s this year at 40%. There's another guy who shot 114 at 44%. They get threes up, and they got some guys that can make them. So if those 2 guys get hot, watch out.
Yeah. Kolton, who you got, brother?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with my first upset. I'm going to go with Yale over Texas A&M. I think they're like 26-7. They went 13-1 in their conference. Yale was one of the ones that I think they pulled off an upset last year, right?
Didn't they beat Texas A&M?
Well, I don't think it was Texas A&M. Who was it? But I remember Danny Wolf playing for Yale, and I can't remember if they won the game or they almost won the game, but they put up a pretty big fight. They may have almost won and lost, but they've got essentially a senior who is averaging 21 points a game. They have another senior who leads the team in rebounds, and they have a different senior that leads the team in like assists.
It was Auburn. I knew it was an SEC team.
Yeah. Did they beat them or they?
Yeah, they beat them.
Yeah.
Beat them by 2.
And to me, Texas A&M is just one of those teams. I saw where Troy, we were talking about Troy in Kentucky, they said where Troy is like the mid-major Texas A&M, right? They want to muddy up the game. They play a type of style that's very physical, athletic, but they don't just wow you with offense. They don't wow you. Texas A&M has those moments where they don't score. Yale, to me, having some older guys different older guys that are leading in different categories. It seems like an old team. And I watched them play this game earlier this year. The only time I saw Yale play was against Purdue, and they got beat, I think, 92-84. at Purdue. So they can score points. And they can, obviously, they hung in there with a top team. So I really think that Yale is going to be my first upset. I think they're going to take down Texas A&M. And then my next one, I think a lot of people are going with them, but I'm just going to go with it, is the UC San Diego. Michigan, I just cannot. They were a couple episodes ago, they were one of my sleepers. But their guard play does just worry me. They just does. They are matchup problems down low, but they do not need to run into a team that runs fast pace and gets the scoring, because Michigan is not built to come back from behind. They are not. They are two big guys, need to play together down low, slow play you, but they are not a team that is built to start having to chug up threes. And UC San Diego scores, and they play fast pace. And they have one guy that he's leading in points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, he is a stud player. So to me, if Michigan gets behind it all or into one of those type of games, they're going to struggle with that. And I could see, and of course, the Yale and Michigan, for the Yale and Texas A&M, Michigan, UC San Diego are the two games that would play each other. So then you're looking at possibly having a 12 or 13 seed in the Sweet 16. So that's my first two. My other one, it's not necessarily a bold one, but I think UNC is going to the Sweet 16. I think they're going to beat Ole Miss, and I think they're going to turn around and beat Iowa State. Iowa State's injured. They have another
best
player
player's out, right?
Yeah, he's
Gilbert.
out. He's out, and I'm going to take Iowa State to beat Lipscomb. But if I had to choose, people kept saying that the best 14-3 possibility upset was Troy over Kentucky. I think it's Lipscomb over Iowa State. Lipscomb's a good team. Like they played terrible against us. They shot the ball terrible against us, because I think they were playing like their third game in 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, and they had played other Power 5 like it wasn't like an easy game. Like they had went on the road and play. I think in Arkansas, they played a couple nights before us. They played Arkansas.
Right. And so if you watch that game, they had several open looks during the game. Several open 3-point looks. And they just didn't make anything. I mean, absolutely. And if they'd have made something, I mean, that game would have been a lot closer than what it was. And so they are a very efficient team. I think they're very well coached. Lipscomb is like my sleeper. I'm going to choose Iowa State to win that game, because I think athleticism will eventually take over. But I do think North Carolina, after barely getting in, shouldn't have went in. Obviously, I still don't think they should be in. They're going to find themselves in a Sweet 16, and you're going to see a classic North Carolina versus Michigan State Sweet 16. Right? How many times does it seem like those two teams have played, or something like that has happened in the last 10 years? And we're going to find ourselves in again. And at that point, I mean, if UNC gets to that point, they've won 3 games in a row in a tournament. I mean, look out. So to me, that's my boldest takes. I think it could be exciting. It also would not surprise me to have a year where there's like no upsets.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Boys, this Texas and Xavier game is getting so good.
Oh, yeah.
I need to turn it back on.
And Trey Johnson is just going at it.
Oh, yeah. This is right now is the point where he is very liable to score 95% of the team's points in the last.
He made another 3. They're just going back and forth. It's a great game. But yeah, those are our upsets. So, like we said, it's March. Anything can happen. Now, we're not saying that these are all going to happen, but these are our favorites. Some are just first rounders, and some are, like Kolton had, advancing a little bit past that. All right, let's get to our next segment. We're going to talk to you about a Room 302 tournament for the ages. And we're not going to spend a lot of time about this, but we're just going to do a little bit of it just to break it up from the sports. Mason, unfortunately, wasn't a part of this. He hadn't quite made his way into Room 302, where we weren't in Room 302 just yet. We were all freshmen still, but kind of lay out the foundation of this. So at Bristol University, they have, it wasn't an intramurals league. It was just kind of this once not once in time, but because they had it every year, but it's their annual dodgeball tournament. And, me and Kolton and Chance, we were freshmen coming into Brescia, and, nobody really knew who we were. But what we did know is that the baseball team had kind of ran this dodgeball tournament. And, I mean, it makes for good reason. It makes sense. Baseball players, they use their arms and whatnot. So the baseball team, that's kind of what we had heard all week long, was about the baseball team was going to easily have this. So me, Kolton, and Chance, we found a couple other freshmen, and Kolton, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Yeah, so when we formed a team that was pretty much like Dodgeball, the movie, right?
Exactly.
We're average Joe's gym, first the Cobras. And so we're taking two golfers, Dillon's playing basketball, and then two guys or one guy that was elite, right? Wasn't it?
Alex Shellhart, Logan Ramsey.
Yeah, so they both played, a couple buddies of theirs. They were actually on the baseball team, but they were not like pitchers. Like they weren't the guys with the big arms. And I think we had each have one girl on the team. So we had Kat, I think she played on the volleyball team, was on their team. But yeah, the pitchers, I think the basketball team even formed one, didn't they? Didn't they have a team also?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
They did have a team. So, I mean, everyone was looking at us like the easy out. I mean, it was set up like the 16 seed versus the one, the NCAA. I mean, it was the type of stuff that they write stories about, make movies, 30 for ESPN, 30 for 30s. And so it was on. I mean, we went in with 1,000 to 1 odds to win.
At least that's what everybody else thought.
And that's when we began.
I knew our capabilities, and I knew what was coming for everybody else. I'll be honest with you. If you know me, I'm a competitor. And we took that gym over. And I mean, you should have seen some of these people's facial expressions. They were like, who is these guys? What are they doing? How in the world? And we were flaming. But I'm going to set the scene a little bit more so, too. You had on the front lines, you're going to war, and you want to put your best ones in war up on the front lines. And up at the front lines was nobody else except for me and Chance England. And we were dodging. We were dip, dive, dodge, duck. I mean, we were doing it all. And we're like looking around, and I mean, we are just going at it. And all the girls, they keep handing us the balls, and, we just keep firing these dodgeballs. And we're like, where's Kolton? We look back, and Kolton's like back there getting the balls, and he like here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're like,
Go ahead.
And we're like, where's Kolton? What's he doing? Get up here. And it's just one of those perfect scenes where you just have Kolton he's there, but we're like, get up here with us. We need your help. And me at Chances, he can't even hold on to any more dodgeballs. He's just firing them. And Kolton,
you tell him how important that is. You ever seen Hacksaw Ridge?
Absolutely. There's got to be a medical doctor.
Refilling you with ammo. He's taking care of everybody.
I remember hitting one guy and pulling out the Jamal Murray arrow.
I do remember that.
I mean, I was, oh my goodness. I was high. Listen, we had to survive in advance, man.
Yes, and so I don't know if it was 2 or 3 games, but anyways, we did end up meeting the champions over, I don't know how many consecutive years, but the baseball team. And, they were very cocky. They were like, they didn't know who we were, but we let our names be known that day of who we are. And that would set up the future for Room 302. Nobody messes with us.
It was legendary. I mean, if they make a dodgeball 2, it'll probably be about that moment. But we'll see what they do.
Who's going to be Patches Houlihan?
Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor. And we didn't know Trevor then either, or we did know him, but he was not well enough to.
Trevor's just up in the crowd heckling.
Yeah. Oh, good times. But those are the kind of stories that, we remember and we love so much and cherish. It's silly, but it's not, because, everybody has memories with their friends in college. And Our memories are probably a little bit different might be a little bit different than a lot of other college memories. But that was a good one for sure. All right, let's get into our last segment of the night. Over the weekend, you had the players that was played. Pretty much the fifth major is what a lot of people calls it, because it is the players on tour. It's their tournament. It means a lot to them. A lot of guys. I've heard some say that they would rather win it than, believe it or not, an actual major, just because it means so much to them. Yeah. I don't care. Either one of y'all can kind of explain kind of what happened, because you didn't see a Sunday finish. Mason, do you want to do that, or do you want Kolton to kind of explain to the audience? Usually the tournament ends on Sunday, but kind of explain what happened.
Yeah, go ahead. I watched whenever Kolton texted us and was like, he exploded. He blew
no,
up.
I'm talking about, though, just like why they had to play on Monday morning.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. So basically it ended on Sunday. They were tied after their final round. And it had already been delayed some that day because of weather. So by the time that they finished up, they had to move things to Monday, because in this particular tournament, there's a 3-hole playoff. And they play 16, 17, and 18. So wasn't enough sunlight on Sunday, so they had to finish it the following morning. And y'all can kind of, Kolton, if you want to kind of take over there about what kind of happened on Monday, because I didn't tune in until you texted us.
Yeah, so obviously there was big rain delay. I think Rory started out the day, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 4 shots behind or something like that. But by the backside, by the time he made the turn, he was tied for the lead.
Well, he went birdie eagle right off the bat.
Right off the bat. So he was tied for the lead.
He was already applying the pressure.
Yeah, and so. Anyhow, they went to a big weather delay. They came back out, and everyone was able to finish. Rory had a 70-foot putt on 18, put it to 5 feet, and of course everyone started bringing back his missed putt at the U.S. Open. Right? They were like, "Oh gosh, he's got to make this." Right? It was on everyone's mind. it had to be on his too. And he does catch the hard right lip, but it does go in. And then Spawn comes in the 18, tied, needing a birdie to win. Hits a good shot from the pine straw.
Yeah, really good shot.
Really good in a pressure moment. Hits it to 25 feet, pin high almost, and leaves it literally 2 inches from going in. So obviously taps the end par. They have to come back on Monday, finish. And immediately, right off the bat, 16 is a par 5 that if you take a certain line, it is a shorter hole. It's a shorter par 5 anyhow, but it becomes a short hole. And right off the bat, Rory goes first and hits it to 180 out on par 5. Just set the tone immediately. Perfect, split the fairway. Spawn puts it in the right rough. He comes up short in the front bunker, just short of the green. I think Rory goes driver, maybe 8 iron, maybe 9 iron. To 20 feet, ends up 2-putting birdie. So he's got a 1-shot lead going into 17. And the biggest thing is obviously he put it right on the center of the green to 30 feet. So he's got a 1-shot lead and he's safe on the island green. What's an incredible, a very hard shot. And Spawn, I knew what he had to be thinking was okay, at this point, 18's a tough hole. It's not necessarily a birdie hole. I've got to maybe be more aggressive. And I will say this. He ended up putting it in the water. But the actual shot that he hit was at least an aggressive swing. You see some people make in that type of pressure moment kind of leave it way short because they probably didn't commit to it. He overcommitted. But it was a great line and literally just flew the green. He didn't get the distance right, didn't get the wind right. Obviously, I think he took 6 on the hole. So,
that was the tournament.
Rory ended up 3-putting. He bogeyed.
He bogeyed.
Still,
yeah.
So ended up winning. He was up by 3 going into the final hole. So it was kind of over at that point. But, yeah, this is the 5th major, mainly because it's a full field, right? There is no, other ones that you have to have a certain qualifications to get in. You're being
other than the
live guys.
Elevated. Well, I'm talking about the elevated events, signature events. You have a full field that are great players.
Well, you don't have a full field though.
Oh, not full field. I'm just talking about the players.
Right, but all those guys are in this event too on top of the other 80 guys that's on the PGA Tour. So you don't even just get to beat yes, obviously the top guys, but you have to beat the entire PGA Tour to win this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they consider it the fifth major, because it's everyone that's on a tour member is essentially playing in this tournament. And so if you win this one, you are the number one, you're considered the top PGA Tour member. So that's a big tournament. And I was happy for Rory. He started off the year good. I mean, a big time signature win, a couple top 25s, and now the players win. I mean, it's going to be one of those years for Rory. And
well, that's what I was going to bring up. So I've said this, we've only talked about Rory once, but you all know I've been hard on Rory. But, right now, we could be in the making of his breakout, most dominant season that he's had. He had 4 wins in 2012. And then other than that, I'm talking about a complete dominant season. Now, he's had 3 wins, which is a great season and somewhat dominant, but I'm talking about where he could probably get 4 to 5 wins. Right now, this might be his best start since 2012. I mean, he's had 2 wins already. He had it at Pebble, like you said, which is an elevated, it's the 5th major. And then he won at Pebble Beach, which was a signature event. So, I mean, we might be seeing Rory have just a really big dominant season like we did last year with Scottie. Now, here's what I'm going to say too, and I've already told you all. I do not see Rory winning the Masters now. And the reason why I say that is because he is playing way too good. And it's the same story every year with Rory whenever he's playing good heading into the Masters. Like, this is the year. And it's that build up, that pressure. Because I think Rory now he's not won a major since 2014. So we're going on 11 years. Even the best players feel that pressure. And he definitely feels that. He's had great opportunities last year. Had a great opportunity, like you referenced the putt at the U.S. Open. Here's an interesting stat. I sent it to you all, but for the audience members, Rory has never won. I don't know if it was true, but this is what I've seen. He has never won in the month of April. That's another that could be totally wrong, but that's what I saw on a picture. And I wonder if that's correct. Somebody can fact check me if they want. But he has not won in the month of April. So I just don't know if he's going to win the Masters. I know that's the one that he needs to solidify his the sweep of all the majors. But then Mason, I want to hear your thoughts on Rory, and then kind of lead us into Mason about Scottie, because that's also something we want to talk about. Can Scottie win? What kind of year is he going to have this year? Because we're seeing a little bit uncharacteristic like things, even though he's posting top 10s. What are we seeing?
I was just watching the end. Xavier's gonna end up winning. Y'all still got it on?
Yeah, they won. Xavier won.
Yeah. So first, my take on Rory. I don't think he's gonna win the Masters. I think we've talked about the Masters a little bit earlier and kind of how the course is. I think the greens are so tough there. We know he's not the greatest putter, and we've seen him struggle at times, miss some short putts. I think he is playing really well. He talked about, some of the changes that he's made. Looks like it's really working out for him. I'm happy for him. I feel like he's been through a lot here the last couple of years, so I think it's great for his confidence, for his mental state, everything. I think it's awesome. I don't think he's going to get a win at the Masters. That's the only one he's missing, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. He's playing well. He'll probably be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, going into the Masters. With how he's playing right now. And then kind of going into Scottie, we've all seen what Phil Mickelson has said. Mm-hmm. I do think Scottie's going to win this year. I do. I mean, he's just too good. He has those days where he comes out and everything's clicking and nobody can keep up with him. I do think he's going to end up getting a win. I don't know when that'll be. I think he's always going to compete in majors, and he's always a threat right now, of course. I don't know when that will be, but to say that he's not going to win this year after what he's done the past couple of years is kind of crazy to me. And go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I had to put money on it, I would say Scottie wins this year. I'm not going to probably choose Rory to win the Masters, but one thing about this tournament that impressed me the most was that Rory did not hit the fairway. Like, it was not like he was striping driver. He was in the pine straw a lot. Like, I can't remember. They gave their stats at the end of it, but he missed the fairway more than he hit it and managed to win. And everyone else seemed to be struggling. And so that gives me a little bit of hope, because I just think Rory has changed a little bit. I think he's become more like, just go with the feel instead of like some of that mechanical, be in the perfect slot. Like, I think he's just going with what's feeling best. So and that obviously helps with Augusta with the different lies and the different stances. Putting is obviously the big deal with Rory. Like, not that he's a terrible putter, but those are the 4 or 5 footers at Augusta are major things. But as far as Scottie, obviously I posed that question a couple weeks ago. I said, here, I'm just going to throw it out here just as a hot take. I don't really believe it, but I said Scottie's not going to win this year. And the reason that I could honestly almost see it, I'm like, if I had to put money on it, I think he would win. But before he finally won, like, he was having several like top 10 finishes.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like he came out of nowhere, finally won one. Like, he was like right there at it. He was like one of those becoming like, when is he going to get, kind of like a Fleetwood?
Yeah, that's
right?
what I was like, kind of like a Fleetwood.
People just waiting for him to finally win. And that's kind of where Scottie was at for a long time, like top 10s, finishing second.
Yeah.
Well, what are we seeing this year from Scottie? Same thing. It's not like he's playing bad. He's making the cuts. He's finishing top 25, but he's having 1 or 2 rounds that's like a random even par day. And it's like, and I don't like seeing this from Scottie, because my favorite part about him has been how like cool, calm, and collected. But I think his expectations and all that is starting to get to him a little bit.
Yeah.
And that could be the worst thing for him, because he is starting to get mad and complain a lot more. And that's the worst thing that he can do, instead of just go out there and really enjoy the moment and play his best. So,
well, I mean, you talk about Scott. I mean, he's coming off a year. I mean, I don't think, and he has to understand, like, he's not going to have probably a season again. He might, but it's not going to. It's going to be once a blue. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a guy who won the Masters, the Players, the Arnold Palmer, RBC Heritage, Memorial, Travelers, the Tour Championship, gold at Olympics, and even throw in the Hero Challenge in the same calendar year. Like that's 8. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 9 tournaments that
ridiculous.
he won
all
in the same
all
big signature events.
Yeah.
I kind of see, for me, Scottie having more of a year like he did in 2023, where he won twice. He won the WM Phoenix Open, and then he won the Players. But like you said, Kolton, how many top 10s and like in 2023, he had 13 top 10s, not including his wins. And then dive a little bit deeper, 10 of those 13s were top 5s.
Yeah.
10 tournaments, he was top 5. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that, I wouldn't say that he's not going to win, but I think that he's going to have a year where he's there all year long. He's not ever out of it, but he's not going to win 4 times. He's going to win probably 1, I would say anywhere from 1 to 3. But I do think, though, I'm not going to count him out to not get hot. You know what I mean? Like, when he wins one, then the next week he wins again, and then 2 weeks after that he wins again. Like, he's that kind of player. Even though he's been there, there's always that, okay, I've got it. I'm back.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think I've said if he wins one, I think it's there again. But it's, Masters be here a couple weeks. Obviously we'll do an episode and give our Masters picks and about the greatness of the Masters, but that's an exciting time. Everyone's starting to feel. Dillon sent the video of like the Masters, like, kind of trailer that they kind of produce out every year, kind of just get people excited. And every year, I mean, it's just, even if you're not a golf fan, this is the one tournament that non-golf fans know.
Not a golf fan, but I remember watching Bubba Watson, the shot where he was in the woods. I was at my grandparents' house. I had nothing to do with golf. I was like, the Masters is on, I'm going to watch some of it. And I remember that shot, and I was like, wow, I don't know if that's a good shot, but good job, Bubba Watson. Don't have a clue who you are. I know you are a lefty having a pink driver shaft, and that's about all I remember.
Right.
So, Mason, you got anything before we close it?
Yeah, Kolton, I just want to bring up, good point you kind of said about Scottie getting frustrated. I don't know if have y'all watched Full Swing?
Yes.
Do you remember when Ted Scott talked about when he first joined Scottie? He sat down with him and was like, "Here's some things you need to work on. These things, mentally, and kind of getting frustrated and kind of being emotional and having some of those little outbursts that he would." And I think Ted has done a good job of kind of helping keep him even keel. I think Ted Scott has had a lot to do with that. And like you said, we're kind of starting to see some of that come out of Scottie again. He's getting frustrated, so hopefully Ted can kind of rein him back in. But yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Well, fellas, by the time that everybody's listening to this, it's going to be game day. So
Go Cats.
Yep. As always, go Cats.
Cats.
That's a wrap for this episode of Bluegrass State of Mind. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, be on the lookout for our social media pages and be sure to follow them. We've got plenty more stories, insights, and conversations coming your way. And if you really loved it, make sure to share it with a friend. From the hills to the hollers, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep that Kentucky spirit strong.